Today is Abchav Beis. We are finishing the first page in Avodah Zarah, and we already discussed yesterday. We are learning dinim regarding Shabbos, right? So we said that you shouldn't leave a field by a kusi because he might work it on Chalamoid. But a guy will listen and he won't do anything on Chalamoid, and not because, according to Shmuel, at least, not because we say the guy is an oris, but it's the same thing. He a sharecrop is doing for himself, because then the kusi would be the same thing. But rather, we're saying is because what do you call it? By a guy will listen to what you suggest to him, and the kusi won't, because he thinks he knows better. Said the Gemara further, about 7 lines from the top of the page. Chav Amud Aleph. So we had Hani Mordecai, these people who plant gardens, the Ovid Kachavim, from a guy, is Nakid B'Shabbat, and he had a partnership with a Yid. A Yid had a partnership with a guy, and they worked together, bought this garden, and they were going to plant anything else. So the guy Nakid B'Shabbat, the guy was going to work it on Shabbos, and Yisrael B'Chad B'Shabbat, and Yisrael was going to work it on Sunday. Asula Kamei Rabba, they want to know that's all right. We're partners, but I work Shabbos, the guy works Shabbos, and I work Sunday. Shadalu, he permitted it. Eisvei Rabbeinu Rabbeinu says, I don't understand. Yisrael, the Gachavim Shekibul Sad V'Shutva, it says in the Braise, for Yid and a guy have received a field in partnership. Lo Yomi Yisrael Gachavim, you should not tell the guy, Tu Chelkachav B'Shabbos. You take your share in Shabbos, because I have to work on Shabbos just like you, and you have to work on Sunday like me. So look at trade-off. You work on Shabbos, and you get whatever it is, and I'll work on Sunday, and I'll get whatever it is. So I'm benefiting from you working on Shabbos. Really, I would have to work on Shabbos, and you're working on my behalf. So therefore, and on Sunday in return, I'm working for you. So we therefore know we're working it out. But clearly, you're my shliach. The problem is that the goy is like a shliach who is on Shabbos. So, this is what Alter Rebbe says by Avodah Zarah. The whole idea of a goy working for you on Shabbos is the different reasons given. But one of the Alter Rebbe says because yesh shlichus and nochi l'chumra. This whole gang in the Gemara from Rashi here, but Rashi Kufcham Gimel Shabbos, that it seems because the guy is a shliach, even though no guy really cannot be a shliach for a yid. But when it comes to Shabbos, we're saying we're machmir that he goes a shliach. But in hisnu mitchila mutter, now this is very important. If this is the arrangement we had when we start our partnership, you work on Shabbos and I work on Sunday, which means I have no responsibility or obligation to work on Shabbos. Therefore, when you work on Shabbos, you're not my shliach. You're not my shliach. You're not working for me. I am having somehow no from the fact you did it. So that's something else. That's something else. But the problem was that you're working for me, but you're not, because we made Chatzchila up. I'm not working on Shabbos, so don't do with me. So in Hisnu Metchila, that's then you're not my shleich anymore. But the imbo lecheshben aser. But if they make a cheshben, it's aser. Big machlek is the Ravid and other Rishonim. On which cases imbo? No, how much did you earn on Shabbos and how much did you earn on Sunday? Yeah, and you take, well, let's say you earned $50 on Shabbos, I'll take $50 on Sunday because that's when I'm working for you or during the week. Then it's a problem. Now, big machlek is the Ravid and other Rishonim. That according to the Ravid, this is talking about even if you made a Tanai lechatchila, even if you made a Tanai from the outset that I have nothing to do with you in Shabbos, you're my shutah, you want to Shabbos, that's your cheshbon, not mine. But still, if we make it tonight to make a calculation how much you earned, then he says it looks like the whole thing's a farce. It's a charade. According to Rashi, and that's how Shmuel Paskins, even though it says it should be a little bit machar derived, there's another Paskins that no. That when it comes to being hisnu mitchila means if you what do you call it? In bowl cheshbon also, you didn't make up anything. You didn't make up anything, and then you make a cheshbon, then it's clear that you're working for me on Shabbos because what I am trying to calculate what you earned, and instead, and I'm going to keep that. You made $50 on Shabbos. I'm going to keep $50 from our profit for extra during the week. So then it's clear that it's like an arrangement, but you're my shliach on Shabbos. But if we did not make any, if we did not make a cheshbon, then it's mutter. But in hisnu, even if you make a cheshbon, it's all right. It doesn't mean that it's a sham or a charade. So Rabbi was embarrassed. The Brisa clearly says that he can't do what he just did. Organize with, the guy works on Shabbos, he works on Sunday, then after the set down make a cheshbon. The Sefer Gloy Milsa, the Hishtami Kara have this happened a few times with Rabbi. He paskin turned out to be that we thought it was wrong, and then it turned out to be the end. Actually, the case was different than the scenario that he was given, and his plaque was right. Like the famous Meister in Yehuda, they tested him when he became a Rav, made a test, they get the fruits on the table. No, so he said, and he got it wrong. So he says when a Rav becomes a Rav, he gets Seyat Shmaya. Right now, it's merely a test. I don't have Seyat Shmaya. So the Gemara continues. Rav Gvia Mibei Koso. Omar. Rav Gvia Mibei Koso said that the story was totally different. Hanu Shasida the Orla Hava. It wasn't to do with Shabbos. It's a case of Orla. And the Orla not have any hana from the fruits, whatever it is you're working. So we saw the guy who worked the first 3 years of the field when he couldn't have enough of it anyway, and then he got all of the profits, and then the Yid worked the following 3 years and he got all the profits, and that was the partnership. Also, the comment of Rabbi, that's the story. It went to Rabbi, and Rabbi permitted it. He said, "Yeah, no problem." Why? Because it's common that you work 1 year, you get all of it. That's how partnership works on the field, and I work 1 year, I get all of it. So you're not my shliach. When you work those 3 years, you were not my shliach. And in Nachmet, even if you were my shliach, who said that you're not allowed to work on Orla? You're not allowed to eat the Orla fruit. You're not allowed to have anah, but to work, no such issue. So who cares if it's a shliach? The shliach doesn't matter over here at all. Doesn't matter. You're having hanah from the paytas because you ate the paytas those 3 years. I'm able to eat 100% of the paytas the next 3 years, because that's how the meaning of working is, a partnership when it comes to a field. So therefore, the year that you work, you get. The year that I work, I get all of it. There's no hana here either. Says the Gemara, how can you tell me that's the version of the story? Ravina asked Rav a question. Ma'aser with Shabbos, only made it tonight. What does it have to do with this case over here? What does it have to do with this? Your version of the story, Arla, what's Ravina asking a question from a Brisa? So he said, "So you say, hey, forget this helps him." How does the Brisa help him? Because the Brisa said that the only problem of Shabbos is shlichus. So it says by Arla, there's no problem of shlichus because the guy himself could have worked. So what's wrong if the guy works for the Yid? So therefore, it's a raya to Rabba's track. It said that Rabba was embarrassed because he thought he passed it wrong. La Hadam, that never happened. That part never happened. Gemara concludes, have a question. What happens? You didn't make it tonight that I have nothing to do with Shabbos, and I'm working Sunday and I make 100%, and you're Shabbos. So in other words, when I have no responsibility to work on Shabbos, obviously you're not working for me on Shabbos. I made it tonight. Then we said that if I said, afterwards, after we became shutrim, I said, okay, you work on Shabbos and I'll work on Sunday, and that's how we divide the profits. What about stomach? We didn't make anything up. Didn't say one way or another. Mike, can we just divide the profits equally? Toshma coming here. Im hisna mit chila mut. It says if they made it tonight, that you can have Shabbos. I'm not involved with Shabbos. So I have no responsibility for Shabbos, and if you're not mashliach, is mashma hastama other. If they didn't say anything, it would be usher. No, even though the Eid never said you take the cheshbon of Shabbos and I'll take the cheshbon of Sunday, vice versa, it's usher. That's not a raya. Ema safe. Look at the end. Im bo lecheshbon usher. If they came to a cheshbon, it's usher. Hastama. What about stam? Vice is mutter. It's only if you made a cheshbon afterwards. Okay, how much you earn on Shabbos, and that's how much I'm going to get. I'm going to take out on the rest of the extra on the extra week. That's us. It's mashma stama, but you just stammed by 50-50. Then it's us. Then el mahalek al macham mishnah. Can't bring it out one way or another. Big machlek is a shame out of Paskin. Basically, machlek is the Rosh and the Rambam. There's also Paskin the Rambam. The Rambam is very machmer, and that stam is also usher. And the Rosh is Mekel, and the Ramah Paskin like the Rosh b'shas chak. But the Alter Rebbe Kunz Achlin puts like a spanner in the whole works. In the long Kunz Achlin, hey, the Alter Rebbe says there's a difference between a sada and a business. Because in a sada, you don't really work out the cheshbon until after the season. Because you don't know right now what the profits will be. So therefore, you don't really see Shabbos there. Because the end of the season is 3 months work, 6 months worth. By shaking in a business where every single week you make a cheshbon, it's much more glaring what a Shabbos is. But nevertheless, im hisnu mitchila, then it's all right. Anyway, this is again interesting. The whole mucker for all the dinim about partnership, and Rejim Hay is a hard simon. All the whole mucker is Satan Avodah Zarah. End of the first page. You always find it fascinating. Why you have to learn Daf Yomi, why you have to go through Shas, just to know, generally within Yonimah. Next Mishnah. Again, to understand the next page, the Me'idi writes that this is talking about a generation where people were completely over the Zorah, depraved, primitive, like the whole idea of bestiality we had before. We'll see now even worse. Is not talking about today's times. It's talking about his times there, 800 years ago. Whether the Me'idi had to say it or whether he meant it is hard to know. But that's what he writes as an akdama. You'll see some statements there, and your head will go, what? This is be prepared. Says the Mishnah. We already had this a little bit before. We had before the idea of bestiality by a guy. So, you're not allowed to place a behema bepuntu koishu chavim. They have the hotels, the inns, the bars. You're not allowed to place it in their courtyard. Why? We're choishes the guy will commit bestiality. Rav did say before, but if it's the guy's own behema, he won't do it because he doesn't want to ruin his own animal. But if it's a yid's animal, somebody else's animal, he doesn't care. The latest yachid isha ima, nor should a woman be alone with them. The latest yachid adam ima, but a man should not be alone with them. It might kill you. Remember, we had about should we go to Barbara alone. Why it doesn't say that a woman shouldn't go alone because shvichas dam, we want to talk about later, because basically, as the expression is kleizayin ima. He's more interested in having a rayus with her than killing her. I'm shaking a man. Oh, we'll see later. Said the Gemara, but I have a question. No, but just a minute ago, Noshim. Like Zach Isha, how can it be other than what's Zach Isha Roy? It's already included in the next one. If they shvichas dam. Sorry.
You could discuss elsewhere anyways.
Yeah, but that's by a man. But by a man, we'll see later by Yid. But by Yid, if the husband's wife is around, not a problem. It's not going to make a difference, as we'll see.
Well, that's with the kitchen barayas.
Yeah, exactly. But this is not the same yichud.
But the husband of the wife, the husband of this woman would be around. Father of the year, I don't know. Well,
no, not by goy, won't help.
If you're talking
about by goy, we don't make any chilukim. We don't even know chilukim at all. The our mission says that you don't place a behem because of chayish bestiality, but I mean, that's the question. It says, loichin mehen behema lekarbon. You're allowed to buy a behema from a goy for a carbon. We're not worried. We're not worried that maybe he was reveya the carbon, the animal. No, we worry that yeah. Because it says min habakar, min hatzain, so we learn that generally min habakar, not all the animals are suitable for a carbon. Depends. And we might see an animal, a revei of the animal was revei to a woman, or the animal's a nirba, or muksa, or never. Muksa means set aside for Avodah Zarah, or never. And so the Brai says here, but you're allowed to chatchila buy an animal from them. We're not worried about revei, we're not worried about nirba, we're not worried about muksa, but mishum never. Okay, Bishleim muksa v'never if he's selling his own animal, because if he set it aside for Avodah Zarah, he would never sell it. Remember, they were idol worshippers, and they were treated like a holy animal. Why would he sell it? Taisha says it's interesting. A muksa doesn't mean like we normally touch. You set it aside. It's much more than setting it aside. You have to groom it for Avodah Zarah. You give it food from Avodah Zarah, kashin from Avodah Zarah. In other words, it's not just. He said if you just say words, you can use this Avodah Zarah. It's not like Hegdish Lahavdil that becomes a kedusha here, kodesh. It doesn't work here. You have to do some activities towards Avodah Zarah. You would always ask, still ask, if once muktzah is also, what if something never to? Isn't never worse than muktzah? But if madach muktzah, then surely never. Unless it's like loyzu avzu. Now the question is, if you're going to tell me, the reason why we're not worried about muktzah and ever, he's active in Risa Polchef. It's true that he set it aside. I bow down to it, don't have a masbelek. He would never sell it, says God. El Reveya v'nirba lochu. Shizam Mishnah says we're worried about Reveya and Nirba. How come you're allowed to buy from them. So we'll have a few answers. You know why? We had before, a goy will not maltreat his own animal, because if it's a female animal, she will not be able to have any to procreate any further. And he's hurting himself. Why would he do it to his own animal? So therefore, if he's selling you his own animal, we're not chayshish that he did anything to it to ruin it. He said, okay, the animal's a female. Okay, I understand. He doesn't want to, but if the animal's a male, even if it was not Reveya, his animal didn't really shot him, didn't affect him in any way. What says it does? It does make it does ruin the animal somehow or another. It weakens the animal, and therefore again he won't harm his own animal. He'll do it with other people's animals, but not his own. Rav kind of said, "Hoyel machishbos el hadam." He learned another brayse, loichin behema meroye shalehen. It says you'll have to buy an animal from their shepherds. And remember, the shepherd's not their own animal. He's lochayde leichud gimar avala roye. Let's be chayshe shalehen. Lochayde let's be chayshe the word that the roye himself. And you gave me a cheshbon the balabos as one harm his own animal, but it's a roye. If the balabas recognizes that the roya abused his animals, he will lose. It'll cost him money, and if it costs him money, he's not going to do it. So the Tanya, we learned another brayse. Another brayse, you should not give a behemoth to their shepherds. Now, why not? Because we're worried about bestiality. But you just said that the roya is scared to do anything wrong because it'll affect his parnasa. Lema Roy Shalem Misyada, why don't you say that the Roy is scared Mishum Hefses Chara? So why shouldn't the Eid give his animal to a Roy? So it's very interesting. Inu the Yodi Bahadodi, they all know each other. They know their character. They know that everyone is liable to go ahead and be Roy. So they're on the lookout. The balabas, the owner of the animal, on the lookout when he takes it back from the Roya, he wants to have a good exam and make sure that nothing happened. And the Roya knows that. They know each other. So the Roya behave himself. He's mitzvah. He's scared. We don't know this kind of lifestyle at all. We don't know what to look for. We don't even think about it. It doesn't even enter our minds. Therefore, the Roya can take advantage, and he's not worried that Eid will find him out. And in fact, Omar Rabba Haidamish is a saying by people, Michtava Gala Baza, that they used to have a pen. They used to etch things out made out of metal. Sorry?
Marble?
A mitzvah was made out of metal, and gola bozak, they when it comes to marble is scared of it because they know each other. The buzzer, the marble, and the mitzvah is the pen was made out of, I don't know exactly. I guess it's to scratch things out. No, they know each other. It's the same thing over here. The goyim, all the Ganav know each other. They don't trust anybody because they know that everybody else will be Ganav as well. Is Ragla Bechavli Yoder. So too, that they know each other, the goyim know each other, how the behavior is, and and they know Ragla means behavior. The behavior Bechavli Yoder knows how because they know what they would do, so therefore they know what to suspect their friend. We're totally out of that world. So therefore we don't even know what to look for. We don't even think for better knowing. It doesn't even enter our minds that we should be looking out for these kind of things.
We said before Nirva, the animal was worshipped. Never, sorry, it was worshipped for
Nirva, never.
Yeah. So within that, if a goy renounces the Avodah Zarah, he can
an animal
remove the Avodah Zarah factor from this. But does that apply to an animal also?
We'll see later if an animal can become a Avodah Zarah. But for Gavoya, we're talking for Karbonis now. For Karbonis, it's a step above what the halach is. Karbonis is mias to bring something. Yeah. Says the Gemara right. So that's the question. Rabbi, sorry. Ihache bazei schadim menekeves. Buying male animals from a nekeva like Lisbon, you shouldn't also buy from them because maybe the chayshina dil merabala. So how can we allow to buy a male animal from a female? Because nothing could have happened. Really, maybe she brought the animal herself, so the animal was a reveya. Kiva, Gemara says, you know why? Interesting. Kiva the migriba, because the animal then gets attached. If someone has bestiality with an animal, the animal now gets attached. She's embarrassed and she's scared that people will realize there's something going on here between her and the animal. Even though interesting, the donkey, nobody knew about the donkey and Bilam, even though the donkey says, I was your wife, but nevertheless, I guess other animals are a bit smarter than a donkey, and they'll hang around. So the Gemara, if you tell me that the animal is hanging around so she's embarrassed, I'm a question. Rabbi Yosef said we had that our malta, when it comes to an almana, like Tarbi Kalbo, she should not raise a dog. A single woman should not raise a dog in her house. And why not? Because we're worried about bestiality when she's lonely. But like to Shadi Barbi Rabush, please, and no, she'd allow Yishuv Bacher alone with her in her, she should host. It's Bishlai Barbi Rab, we're worried, and they'll have Znus because Snila, she knows that he doesn't want to embarrass himself, so he won't tell anybody, he won't disclose it. Ela Kalba, when it comes to a dog, even the Migraba, since if she commits bestiality with the dog is going to hang around her. It's mitzvah, the same cheshbon that the goy won't do, so she also will. She'll be embarrassed. Says the Gemara, no. You know why Rabbi Yosef said that a single woman shouldn't have a dog? Even the chishadile unsa, she throws him a piece of meat. The dog, the animal also will. The dog will follow her all along because she wants the food. Meiman amanichi, what's the average eat? Because we don't know that world. We're not inside that world. What are we going to see? Why? Oh, wow! She must really take good care of the dog, feeds him well. Is incha because of the food. So you want okay? What about nekavis? Eitzel nekavis. We said before, we had this before that a female animal by a female woman. My time will learn me. Why shouldn't you? What are you worried about there? There's no nirba, there's no revei. What's the problem? The goyim hang around their friends' wives and they have znus for them. He comes to the house to have znus with her. She's not home, and he finds an animal there. Okay, so according to this version of the Gemara, it's the next best thing. However, look at the next piece. Even if she's home, there's a strong possibility he'd rather her choose for bestiality over her. Why? Go understand that. No, they do for pleasure. No, we can't understand. The Gemara said we can't understand it. So, of course, we can't. And so, why? So, how come we don't understand what's going on here? And this is their world that they love, bestiality over their wives, the friends' wives. When Nochash had relations with Chava, he took Bazayma, put in a tumor. So therefore, that tumor stays on, lingers on. That's why the game had this intense. So how come we're different? We also come from Chava. Once we stood on Har Sinai, so that's all this kind of tumor left us. Didn't leave them. So that's a question of further. What about birds? Are we also worried about bestiality with birds? Or chickens? Yeah. Tashma. So again, it's very difficult for us to imagine all this, but my own eyes saw a goy. Shalokach others took a kachke, a goose, min hashuk from the street. Rava, first he had bestiality, then Chanka, he strangled her, then Sola, then he roasted it, and Achla took care of all his needs. I mean, just imagine. I saw Arbiach and one Arab, Shalokach Yedech min hashuk, it's even worse. Took a piece of meat, a thigh, from the marketplace. The Chakak Bakadeh made a hole in it so you can be right there, the animal, even though it's dead, it's only a piece. And then Rava, then Salah, then Achla. Okay. That's how it was. Different world. Comes along Ravina, he says, the Rav answered that the goy will not do any. The reason why you're allowed to buy from a goy is because a goy won't harm his own animal. He won't be able to his own animal. Ravina says, I have no problem at all between the Mishnah and the Bryson. The Bryson says you could buy an animal from a goy, and our Mishnah says you shouldn't leave your animal in the pudik. So Rab said your animal's a problem, but his own animal is not a problem because he won't harm it. Ravina says, in Torah dinim we don't have that chilik, but in Rabbanan we have a chilik chatchila b'diavad. So our Mishnah is saying the chatchila don't place your animal in the pudik, and here talking about if you're ready, the animal's ready by the goy, you could buy from the goy. Because here we're talking, okay, in Am about the future. Don't place an animal there because this might happen. Here the guy already had it. You want to know about the history, the past. That's b'diavad. What happened? Did he do it? The word is b'diavad, but we also b'diavad. The word already happened. It happened. So how do we know the shiny ben lechatchila ben l'diavad? I know there's a difference between lechatchila and diavad. There's none. We learned in the Mishnah, like tisyached isha imam, a woman should not be alone with a goyim. But this is our Mishnah. Right? We suspect that don't be alone because he might do things that untoward her. But I mean, we learned the Fedish. We learned in Ksubah. So isha shenech b'shabedei if a woman was kidnapped by goyim. The husband owed money, so they took her as security that the husband should pay. Muteres labayla. She's permitted to go back to her husband because we'll see that the guy is scared if he damages the wife, the husband won't pay the chayv. His main purpose, his main goal is they get paid. So he's only using her as security that the husband should pay back. Al yedei nefashis, but if he what do you call it? If the reason why they took her is because the husband deserves to be killed, so they took her and they get threatened to kill her, they're not suitable about it. They don't care. They don't care about his situation, and therefore probably something happened. They were right, and he can't go back to her husband. Either we're talking about a kohen here, so even it was rape, or some say you're talking about Yisrael, and we're scared that she at the end agreed. Ella lav shmamena. Now, what's the chiluk between the shiny lon bein lechatchila de'evet? There's a difference lechatchila de'evet. It said in the face muteres labayla. Why? Because you want to know about history. That's for the evid. Lechatchila, she shouldn't be alone with the guy because we're about right. And yet, if she was kidnapped by the goyim, we're saying that what? That she's mutter to her husband because that's talking about the past. So I can see clearly from here the chiluk lechatchila de'evet. So you want to say, what were you talking about? Memai, what are you talking about? Not because the chiluk is the future or the past. It's to do with whether Aydei Mammon or Aydei Nefashis. I can tell you, I feel the Evid Amulai. Even with the Evid, you're not even know about the past also as well. The reason why we're not worried that he did anything untoward to the woman is because he wants to get paid for his slave. And therefore he's not going to hurt himself. And I'll prove it to you. Tate, I'll prove it to you. The Tony Sefer, it says in the Sefer that it's Aydei Nefashis Asura Labayla. It says clearly that through Nefashis, let's say that if she was, let's say, has to be killed and then taken by these goyim, because she's going to be killed, they don't care about what the husband thinks. Taka Asa. That's the reason, not because. And otherwise, why should it be chiluk mammon or nefashis if it's about the past? Then should be mutter in both cases. So it's no chiluk. V'sulay midi, and you can't. An interesting expression, the Gemara. Don't talk to me anymore about this Mishnah because it's over. No right. Not that we're slugging up Ravina's word. It's just we don't have a raya one way or another. Okay, we continue tomorrow in Mitzvah Hashem.